All right, welcome back to Data Stories. It's Dr. A, Associate Professor of Economics. Today we're talking about how much do we pay in rent and how has that number changed over time? To answer this question, we're going to have to solve the problem by following a 5-step process, and I'll take you through that process. The first step is we need to find the data. Luckily, the American Community Survey does ask a question about how much do you spend on rent. The way the question is worded introduces what we call measurement error. The data includes a measurement of rent. And the question asks how much do you pay your landlord in rent? And the measurement error is introduced because some rents include utilities and some don't. And the data does not allow us to identify which rent includes utilities and which ones do not. So for now, we're going to ignore this problem. The next step is we need to calculate the average rent in the area. And out of our data set of 32 million individuals, 8 million of them are renters. The average rent for the 8 million observations is $968. The next step is I'm going to go into Stata and I'm going to calculate the average rent by year. Now I'll want to be able to tell how has this number changed over time. And here's an example of what the data looks like. You can't stop here though. As an econ student, we know that inflation or changes in the consumer price index happen every year, so we need to control for inflation. So let's adjust all of these calculations into real terms. To do that, I'm gonna have to go to Fred and get data on the CPI from 2010 to 2019 across our data observations. CPI we know is calculated on a monthly basis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to calculate it on average per year at the end of the period of observation. So I'm going to look at where did CPI end in 2010, where did CPI end in 2011, and so on. This is a decision that I make and can influence what the data looks like. So it's something to keep in mind. But next, I'm going to take the CPI numbers, I'm going to download them as Excel, and I'm going to take them into Excel, and I'm going to calculate real rents. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to take the nominal rent, and I'm going to change the nominal rent into 2019 values. So I'm going to multiply it by the CPI in 2019 and divide it by the CPI of that current year. So for 2010, that number is going to be 850 times 258.3 divided by 220.5, and that gives me $995.77. That means rent in 2010 transformed to 2019 dollars is $995.77. And if I do that across all years, now I'm able to compare all the rents relative to 2019 dollars. And what we can see is real rent did increase over time, even when we control for inflation. Because this is a series about telling data stories, I'm going to graph it. I'm going to graph both nominal and real GDP, and this is how it looks across time. All right, so what we know is rents have been increasing over time, even when we control for inflation. Make sure to check out this next video.